Hi, it's Kirby Sommers. Today is October 13th, 2025. I believe it's Monday. For me, it could be any day. Because, I just go through the week. The weekend comes, it becomes a Monday, then it becomes a Friday. But what I'd like to do today is read you a very interesting excerpt of my book, Chasing Chandler, which I have been updating. So that's what I do. I'll write a book and then as I continue to research, I will add new information when it becomes enough that I need to kind of revamp the book. So I have it on the screen. I'm using this image. I'm changing a couple of things. Now, this is the new table of contents. I'm curious to hear your feedback on the information that is in this book and if you feel there should be anything else. I mean, I think it's jam packed with a lot of things that perhaps no one understands is connected to the Chandler family, who, of course, we connect to the person we cannot name. Uh, Before I get started, and this is an image of two people I will be talking about because I'm going to read one of the chapters for you, is I want to thank those of you who have really made my day with a super thanks. And that's No Shit Sherlock, who then wrote, "You're an absolute warrior. Thank you." Well, thank you, Carlo Bongiorno. And he went ahead and did three super thanks: Paul Hudson, Kathy Fields, and if for some reason I have missed someone, please let me know because you deserve a shout out. My work is 100% supported by all of you. And so without you, I can't do this. This said, please know that I receive pushback every single day. Doing this is not easy. It is very difficult. And just give me a second because I already need a little bit of water. So, this is a condensed biography of the Chandler family dynasty, um, the one time very powerful owners of the Los Angeles Times, the creators of Hollywood, the ancestors of Rachel Chandler. So, they built the city of Los Angeles according to their needs and desires. They turned the once beautiful expanse of Los Angeles into a city of crime and corruption. This is like really the real LA Confidential. And this empire, it was really built on blood, and it created the ongoing enslavement of generations. Rachel was known by the community that was researching the JE situation as the child. And then I'm going to just I'm going to spell because, on this platform, sorry guys, I have to code certain things for the algorithm. Child, Handler. And, we're talking about um, the horned people, who live under, like if there's a lot of fire, you have to really follow where I'm going here. And it's the elite. And that is why we have a lot of imagery and a lot of things that point in that direction. So on the screen, you're going to see an image of Jack Nicholson and Marlon Brando. And I am reading to you one of the chapters of Chasing Chandler, which is available only on my website. And I do this for many reasons. Safety, number one. Okay. On an unusually frigid day in November 9th, 1977, the body of an 18-year-old girl was found on the hill up above Hollywood. And despite the fact that she hadn't been cut up and drained of all of her blood like Elizabeth Short, also known as the Black Dahlia, 3 decades earlier, the murderer deliberately and gruesomely arranged her corpse in a disturbing pose. Like Elizabeth, what killed her was a blow to the head. Like Elizabeth, she wanted to be in the movies. As her killer would do to future victims, he bit her breast 3 times, leaving his teeth marks as his signature on her alabaster skin. He did this after she was unalived. He did this after he R worded her and after he took her life. He crushed her face and skull with a mid-sized stone he grabbed from the ground at the scene. It was found by the authorities, drenched in blood and pieces of her brain. Near her remains, her killer carelessly discarded it, and he left it there. He was bold. No one was going to catch him. However, he wasn't done yet. No. As she lay limp before him, he strangled her 3 times. Once with her belt, the second with her pantyhose, and the third with the blue pair of pants she wore that day. 3 times and 3 times looks to this author as the number 33. This is an important number in Masonic rituals. No one else who has studied this specific serial killer, whose name you'll recognize, has ever looked into the ritualistic aspect of these details or its connection to the most powerful people on the planet. After her body began to stiffen, the last person to see her alive, and the one who muffled her screams, took the time to arrange her limbs. When she was found, her legs were pushed up against her chest. Her lower torso was nude, and her private part, which I can't say here, faced the house that Jack Nicholson would one day own, namely Marlon Brando's mansion on Mulholland Drive. Brando and Nicholson, who co-starred in the movie The Missouri Breaks in 1976, just 1 year earlier, were neighbors. They lived side by side in luxurious mansions for more than 30 years. Brando was the first to settle into Mulholland Drive in 1960. During the 1970s, the boulevard became associated with not one, not two, but three legendary Hollywood hellraisers, with Warren Beatty joining them in their never ending parties and substance fueled orgies. Not only were Nicholson and Brando neighbors, but their houses were so close together they shared a driveway. Until the man who became famous for yelling Stella as the star of Tennessee Williams' A Streetcar Named Desire, died at the age of 80 in 2004. Nicholson bought it after Brando's death and then he leveled it. Whatever secrets were in the house, Nicholson made sure they disappeared. In what can only be described as ironic, the girl's body was found by a movie crew who arrived the following morning to film a scene. She had only been in Los Angeles for 3 weeks. Almost everyone who was anyone in LA during those days knew where Brando lived. And I just want to upload an image of the house and the location and all of that. And there you can see they were up on the hill. You can see all of LA. And by the way, this is very close to the house owned by the man who owned Playboy. And yes, there were tunnels under these houses that connected to Hugh Hefner's Playboy mansion. So I'm going to go back to reading. Was the girl an homage to Brando, who by this time was known for his insatiable sexual appetite? Or was it perhaps a delivery? Was the brutal murder filmed? A delivery, you might ask. What in the world does this even mean? And filmed by whom and for what? It means that by this time, Brando was Hollywood's most famous star. By this time, he and Jack Nicholson and Dennis Hopper, and by the way, I was transportationed, I don't know what else word to use, to Hopper. I have a long story about Hopper that I believe I have in my book, The Billionaire's Woman, a memoir. And Warren Beatty and a host of other well-known producers such as Roman Polanski and Robert Evans were tight and into really unusual S situations. Okay, I think you follow that. By this time, the boulevard wasn't even referred to as Mulholland Drive any longer. No, it had been given a nickname. It was known as Bad Boy Drive. With a book written by Robert Sellers in 2009, who used the phrase as its title, Sellers wrote, "These are men for whom rules did not apply, men for whom normal standards of behavior were simply too boring to bother about. The boys who lived there and the boys who played there were bad, bad, bad boys." It was around this time period in the mid 1970s that Alan Dershowitz, who became really well known as one of J.E.'s close friends and attorneys, offered his support for SNUFF films, very bad films. In an excerpt from one of the many books I've been studying for this, I found an odd reference to these very bad films and have included it below. And what I'll do is I'll pull it up so that you can take a look at that. Because, sometimes it's hard to believe what these people are really doing, and you guys want receipts, and so I have it. Dershowitz felt the need to defend the legality of privately screened as, really bad films. Dershowitz, as we will discover, was friends with Nicholson and Beatty. Very likely, this is the first clue that Dershowitz knew J.E. long before he claims he was introduced to him, in 1996 by Lady Rothschild, the wife of Sir Evelyn Robert de Rothschild. Because almost everything we've learned from legacy media is nothing as it really happened. I mean, it just isn't. You tell me what you've heard from legacy media, which, turns out to be, you know, the real deal. So on the screen, I have an image of Jill Barcom. She is the 18-year-old who lost her life on that frightful November day in 1977. Jill was the well to do daughter of Maurice and Joyce Barcombe. They had a family home in Oneida County and an apartment on Park Avenue in New York City. She had 10 siblings. I pretty much discovered that her father had been married twice and had two separate families, which apparently is becoming more the norm than not the norm. People seem to have had more than one. They had secret lives, let's just put it that way. And in her early teens, she had volunteered as a candy striper. She played the trumpet in high school, was a good student. She was a little feisty, and she was barely 5 feet tall, weighed less than 100 pounds when her abductor picked her up on Sunset Boulevard. Her slight frame made her appear much younger than her 18 years. So whomever picked her up may have thought she was a 15-year-old girl. So I hope, that kind of comes across loud and clear. Jill left home and headed off to California before completing her senior year at high school. After all, she wanted to be a star. And for this, she needed to be in Hollywood. The Hollywood she landed in, however, was as tarnished and seedy a place as New York's Times Square of the same period. Girls with dreams in their eyes quickly became prey for pimps. Whether or not Jill, like Elizabeth Short, succumbed in such a short period into selling her body is unknown. What we are left with is that initially the police believed she was a victim of Kenneth Bianchi and his cousin Angelo Bruno Jr., known collectively as the Hillside Strangler. She wasn't. A friend of hers, a 15-year-old she must have met after arriving in LA, Judith Lynn Miller, was abducted and unalived by the duo just 1 month after she was unalived. Miller, a runaway who had dropped out of Hollywood high school, was already working the streets as a professional child PROS, and I had to use that because, well, you'll understand it when you read the book. And by the way, the book is available again on my website. I'll leave a link below in the description box. Since we've all learned that minors are not PROS, in Miller's case, she must have already been in the grasp of a child transportation ring, meaning she was transportationed to the two men who unalived her. And sorry, I had to mess that up because I need to code some words here. It won't be until 2010, more than 3 decades after Jill's death, that Rodney Alcala was finally convicted of her unalivement. The case had become cold, and her death would have remained unsolved to present day had Alcala not been charged after he was already in prison for unaliving other girls, women, and even boys. I really hate that no one talks about the boys. And before the conclusion of this, I'm going to share with you some stuff. So I'm going to just continue. And I mean that as is it's in the book. That's what I write in the book. And so I'm going to upload a photo of Rodney Alcala, and I'm sure many of you have pretty much followed the Alcala case and you know who he was. Alcala had an IQ of 135, according to military psychiatrists, before he was discharged from the Army for having a peculiar sexual compulsion. Afterwards, he attended and graduated from the UCLA School of the Arts in Architecture. He flitted about from state to state and in New York studied film under Roman Polanski at New York University. NYU is also where J.E. spent 1 year before beginning his teacher stint at the prestigious Dalton School. While much has been done to deny Alcala's connection to Polanski, it was first reported after his arrest. Moreover, I live in New York and have heard about this for many years, even on campus which I visit from time to time because there are things that happen there that I go to, events. These rumors persist. After Alcala's time as Polanski's student, he returned to Los Angeles and got a job as a typesetter at the LA Times. So we return to the fact that the LA Times was owned by Rachel Chandler's ancestors, her family. Okay, so now he is working at the LA Times. And let me just pull up another. Okay. So that's an excerpt from OC Weekly after Alcala was found to have unalived Jill Barcom in 2010. The LA Times was owned and run by the Chandler family, specifically Rachel Chandler's ancestors. The same Rachel Chandler that is connected to J.E. to the Nexium situation, because I really can't again say the right words, and the ongoing child blank that got under people's skin with the appearance of the Balenciaga ads showing children carrying a teddy bear dressed in bondage gear. Okay? So Rachel was involved with these ads through her agency, Midland, the boutique modeling agency she co founded in 2016 with Walter Pierce. And I'll upload a photo of the book cover because I think you can all recognize that. And that's one of the photos. And I'm just scrolling through my information here. So, I mean, there's a lot more here. And I'm just going to skip, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can read everything in Chasing Chandler, which is, I think, the third time I revised this book. So there is a connection between Nicholson and J.E. Nicholson, who appeared in the 1975 film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, for which he won the Academy Award for Best Director, and from where he was propelled into the kind of fame only very few reach. Well, the man who wrote the screenplay based on Ken Kesey's book was Bo Goldman. And I just want to stop here and say that I've tried to share information on Jack Nicholson on this platform before. And I have to say that I get a lot of pushback on every platform. And on this platform, what I get when I mention The One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, just FYI, is that that wasn't his first film. Yes, we all know that. However, this is what propelled him into stardom. Okay? So, again, the man who wrote the screenplay based on Ken Kesey's book was Bo Goldman. His father, Julian, was an early backer of the Dalton School. Yeah, that Dalton School. I mean, all of this is one degree of separation. If you look close enough, but it takes a lot of time. I've spent years doing this now. It's one degree, but you have to know, you have to become familiar with names that you're unfamiliar with. And that's what I do. I share names that most people have no idea about. Um, so Eleanor Roosevelt admired the work of Helen Parkhurst and was in the middle of expanding the population and resources of Dalton by promoting a merger between Todhunter School for Girls, founded by Winifred Todhunter, who studied in London and was an Oxford graduate. In addition to founding Dalton, Parkhurst was the host of Child's World. This is a TV program that aired on the CIA run ABC television network. Back in the day, there were only three television networks: ABC, NBC, and ABC. And it's very interesting that the school that later JE would be teaching at, which was run by OSS agent, the father of Bill Barr, Donald Barr, had its origins again with the CIA connected entity and had a children's show on ABC. The show began in 1947 at the exact same time that the CIA came into existence. All children's shows at this point seem pretty suspicious. And her creation of the Dalton School, in light of what we know, I mean, like, look, even Woody Allen's film Manhattan, where he's a middle aged man dating a 47-year-old, even in that movie, Allen places the girl as a student at Dalton. Bo Goldman was also a student of Dalton. So I'm just going to skip this, and you can read it in my book. So Ken Kesey, who wrote the book One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, well, we now know he was CIA and part of the counterculture revolution that promoted the use of LSD and other substances. Uh, Tuning out meant staying drugged and not paying attention to the raging war in Vietnam. The drug business had expanded far beyond its reach during the 1960s, with almost every other ad touting one substance or another. Keeping the world doped up is how the elite continued to maintain their control over the populace. I want you to really pay attention to that sentence. Keeping the world doped up is how the elite continue to maintain their control over the populace. And I want you to tell me what you feel that means, because I look at it as a form of eugenics uh, and other things, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say. Let's return to Rodney Alcala, whose victim count is believed to be well over 100. While working for the Chandler family at the LA Times and 1 year after unaliving Jill in 1978, he was selected to be a contestant on the popular TV show The Dating Game. And let me pull up the picture of him on The Dating Game for you guys. The way it worked was that a single woman would ask questions from three single men, referred to as bachelors, who were hidden from her view. At the end of the question and answer period, she would select one as her date. The expenses for these dates were paid by the show. When Alcala appeared, he was selected as the winner by Cheryl Bradshaw. However, after meeting him, he creeped her out and she decided not to go on what probably would have been an ill fated date. Chuck Barris was the creator of the show and many others. In his 1984 memoir, he shared that he was a CIA hitman who was hired to unalive and collect intel on high stakes special missions. He did a lot of traveling, disappearing for weeks at a time when he was supposed to be working on his TV shows. Afterwards, a CIA spokesperson stepped forward to insist this was not the case. Barris was never a CIA agent, he insisted. Hey, when CIA sends out their clowns to keep the truth from being told, as they did after Gary Webb's three-part series for Mercury News came out, well, I think we have to just take a step back and look at this again. So on August 18, 1996, the San Jose Mercury News published the first installment of a three-part series articles concerning crack cocaine. The CIA, and you know what? Hey, this is so weird. My page just disappeared, but you know, I'm a woman on a mission. So, and they the CIA, so it was a three-part series on the white and the three-letter agency and the Nicaraguan Contra Army. The introduction to the first installment of the series read, for the better part of a decade, a San Francisco Bay Area substance ring sold tons of white to the Crips and the Bloods street gangs of Los Angeles and funneled millions in substance traffics to a Latin America guerrilla army run by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, the Mercury News discovered. And so this network opened the first pipeline between Colombia's white powder cartels and the black neighborhoods of Los Angeles, a city now known as the crack capital of the world. The white that flooded in helped spark an explosion of substance in urban America and provided the cash and connections needed for LA gangs to buy automatic weapons. So, why did this happen? So that they could kill each other off. Again, another way that that eugenics is used. We're going to let these people just kill themselves off. CIA Director John M. Deutsch traveled to Watts Lock High School to address Webb's allegations, which he emphatically denied. When CIA protests too much, we know someone's told the truth. Now, I'm going to go back to the boy, Rodney Alcala, and to this gentleman who's an unaliver of children. I think many of you will understand who he is. So, among the hundreds of photos found in Rodney Alcala's storage facility, which he kept in Washington state, was one of a young boy. There were other boys and even babies. I discovered a treasure trove of these haunting photos. And by the way, I share those photos on my Patreon. It's over 100 photographs and it's up there. I uploaded this about 6 months ago. These are incredibly disturbing because the everybody who's posed is wearing neither their bathing suits or they're nude, and some are smiling at the camera, which clearly is held by the last person that they're going to see in while they're alive. I can't go into the exact words I use. Among these photos is one of a young boy that was kidnapped by another serial unaliver, namely John Wayne Gacy. A caller on an old radio show sent the host a photograph of the boy, just who, at the time of the second photo, was a little older than he had been in the first one. As it turned out, he was one of several boys in Alcala's many photographs, meaning Gacy and Alcala knew each other and appear to have traded victims. So I'm going to stop there. As I said, there's a lot jam packed into my updated Chasing Chandler book. It's available on my website. Again, I'll leave a link below. I'm really very interested to hear your feedback on what I've shared. Uh, I included this because number one, it happened in California. The Chandlers pretty much created California. It includes the Hollywood connection. They created Hollywood. Um, as I said, this is the real LA Confidential, and it's my suspicion that just like the transportation rings are connected, like I tell you guys all the time, that these unalivers are connected as well. With that, I'm going to ask you to please like, subscribe, help the algorithm here. And for those of you who wish to support my work, you can do so in a variety of ways. You can do a super thanks. You can join my Substack. You can join my Patreon. You can go to my website and make a one-time contribution, or you can buy one of my many books. Thank you. Till next time. Bye.